Welcome back to my YouTube channel. My name is Luke from Astro Awakening, and this is your winter solstice report. Or is it the summer solstice? Us down here in upside down land. Upside down in the sense that we're inverted on the zodiac. We're having our winter in the southern hemisphere, hence the sun moving into 0 degrees Cancer, cardinal sign, brings about the solstice, our shortest day, longest night. So we're at a real turning point of darkness, moving back towards the light, where those in the northern hemisphere celebrating the longest day and the shortest night are at their turning point of light, moving back towards darkness. So it's an interesting sort of polarity or opposition to these types of energies, because when we look at the zodiac and what it represents in relation to human conscious experience, the unfoldment of the conscious expression here, whether it's through life, nature, the cycles, and all those things, all of the text, all of the ancient knowledge and information we have pertains to the zodiac from a perspective of the northern hemisphere. So they'll all read about the sun at 0 degrees Cancer as being the hottest part of the year, where there's the most light. We've reached that peak. It's just unusual for us because we experience that conscious expression inverted because we're in the southern hemisphere. And I used to think for a long time that meant that we're on the bottom of the earth, but we're on the plane and we're just further out to the edge, away from the middle. Makes more sense if you think about it. So this video is going to be my breakdown of the equinox ingress chart. Excuse me. This video is going to be about the solstice ingress chart. So every chart for the beginning of a particular period of time, or the event or a birth of something or someone, everything that happens has a chart. So when the sun moves through these cardinal points, zero, when the sun moves through these cardinal points, 0 Aries, 0 Cancer, 0 Libra, 0 Capricorn, Capricorn, we experience the solstice. And these are really like the 12, 3, 6, and 9 o'clock points on the clock. They're the cardinal points. So in relation to a cycle, where we are now with the Cancer ingress is that we're at the first quarter phase of this cycle. The cycle began when the sun moved into Aries at the equinox and the start of the zodiacal year. So we're at the first quarter turn. So there's a pivot, there's a shift. There is definitely a shift of energy that occurs now, and we'll start to see that shift express slowly in the outer world. In the north, you're going to start to see light disappear. You're going to start to see things start to turn within. And in the south, we'll start to see light appear more. Our days will increase and light will return, and life in different aspects will start to become more abundant. So interesting to tune into the natural cycles of the earth, especially through nature, and align them to the movement of the clock in the sky, known as the cosmic clock or the zodiac. And that's a nice way to sort of make what's happening above personal, because we can see it expressed in the personal experience and tying things in to our lived experience, making things practical, real, and tangible. That's what I'm all about with astrology. Is I want to make it like, how do we understand it? How do it's practical? How can I apply the knowledge? So my biggest mission is to make the wisdom of the stars accessible for everyone, not just those that are spiritually inclined, not just those that want to learn astrology, not just those that are occultists or esotericists or, mystics, for everyone, because the ancient wisdom that's sort of kept within nature, but also within the stars above, should be accessible to mankind, to all creatures here upon the earth that are able to access it, let's say. I think that nature does without conscious connection. It's just tuned in to those energies and those frequencies, whereas we're tuned out, we've been disconnected. So my hope with the work that I do, and not just these videos that I put up, this is just my point of view and perspective that I'm sharing, but the work that I do, which is to support people on their journey of spiritual awakening from the life that they're in to the life that they want to be in, from where they're making changes and as they grow and evolve, and how they integrate those changes they're having on a spiritual, psychological, conscious level into lived experience in their life. So that's what brings me the greatest fulfillment in the work that I do. And it's not a straight line. It's a journey, and that ups hills and down valleys, and sometimes there's windy bends and sometimes there's dead ends. So as I grow and evolve, so too does the work I do and the way in which I support people through the work I do. So just a quick personal note before we dive right into this Ingress chart is a couple of things with regards to the last few videos that I put up with regards to an increase in the seismic activity. Certainly saw that on the back of that period of time. We had a 7.7 over in New Caledonia, just off Australia. We had a tsunami warning that was taken down. I was in Melbourne for an earthquake and experienced an actual earthquake in Melbourne, like the house shaking, which was the first time in my life I'd experienced something like that. So there was definitely an uptick. It seems to have sort of quietened off now, and we haven't had a big release of that energy. So the fact that that was happening around eclipse time, I would say that we might get a revisit of that type of theme as we move to the next eclipse period, which is in October this year. And look, again, it's not to alarm people. It's just awareness. It's just to go, okay, it's just a way to look at things and see things. And when we see big astrological alignments, we know that there is certain frequency and vibrations that are interacting and interplaying, and how that manifests for us here in the lived experience. There's all different ways in which that can. So it feels like, though, in the middle of the year, there's a bit of a breather. Now, the narrative out there is still being ramped up, and it's about doom and gloom in the economic world, and we're going into recession, and interest rates are going up, and inflation's increasing, and cost of living pressures, and all those things which are real and are experienced, but they're also driven by a narrative story. So if you tell the story enough and often enough, and the way you tell it enough, people start to live the story if it was real and believe it, and then make that their lived experience and their reality. And because 70% of people are tuned into that collective energy, what they think and believe becomes a lived experience for a lot of people. So this is going to come up in this Ingress chart today, is that be aware of the story you're telling yourself about what's going on in your life, the story you tell yourself about who you are, the story you tell yourself about the past, because there's power in those words that you choose to use, in the way in which you describe yourself and what's going on and your response to it. And we have immense power to recreate our story in spite of our circumstances. And someone to look to that has done just that in our modern history would be Nelson Mandela. Now, whether you like his political leaning or not, or whether you think he's a good person or not, I'm not trying to draw attention to that. I'm more saying that his story was one of imprisonment for 27 years, a Saturn cycle. So locked up for a whole Saturn cycle. Imagine that, 27 years of life. And he came out of that prison and was freed and became the president of South Africa. So what story was he telling himself? He could have come out and said, poor me, and enraged about the system and how it was unfair and the, deprivation of liberty and all those types of things. But yet he came out and became the prime minister or the president, whatever you want to call that. And the way that he did that was he chose to tell himself the story that he wanted to make that experience mean to him. And that's the thing. Our four walls are our prisoners, are the reality we've shaped for ourselves in the world we live in. But we can choose the meaning that we have within that environment. And it's a powerful thing to do. So right now, it is about finding a new vision as we make this turn, this pivot, right? Has the vision you've held since the beginning of this year, or even since the equinox in Aries, how is that vision shaping out for you now? And are you finding that your lived experience is in alignment to that vision, or have you had the wrong vision and now you are feeling the reality shape around that vision and not liking what you see or what you feel, what you experience? So really good opportunity now to search within. And with Cancer, the sign of the moon, the sign of the home, the sign of the family, the sign of the soul, it's a really good time to do the soul searching. Going, what sort of vision am I living here in my life? What is my perspective, my point of view? How do I see myself? How do I see myself within the world? How do I look at myself in relation to my challenges? Do I feel competent and capable Or am I feeling overwhelmed and insecure and vulnerable? These are some questions to really consider and think about as we move ahead. Some other personal things before we dive right into stuff is that I've recently come off myself. I'm on the last waning cycle of the last moon cycle, right in through that new moon phase, which is beautiful new moon in Gemini. Was come off an 8-day fast. So I did 7-day juice cleanse fast. No food, just water and juice, 7 days, doing fiber drinks and flushing out. And then into a 1-day water fast. I was going to do 3 days for the water fast, but I did 1-day water fast. And because of the end of that 7 days of juicing, my body was weak and depleted and it needed nutrients. And I tuned in and it was like, we need to eat something. But I want to say this, that there are so many benefits to fasting. Obviously, if you're going to do it, find out the best way for you to do it and approach it and get the right sort of information. Do your research. This is by no means medical advice. This is my lived experience and my point of view and opinions. I'm sharing it because it may be useful and helpful for you. But the thing that happens with fasting is two things. You detoxify, because when your body's no longer feeding itself, it has to strip the energy from the cells that it's been storing energy in, and it tends to strip out a lot of the toxins that are in those cells. And you go through this sort of peak period, between day 2 and 4 of a lot of toxins leaving your system, and you can feel overwhelmed, cloudiness and migraines and headaches and diarrhea and vomiting and all sorts of shit. And if you do fasting and you get to that point, persevere through it, because beyond that, and you will get through it. It may be difficult, but you will. Beyond that, you reach this level of clarity and insight and alignment and, balance that's just amazing. And long overdue for me. That was my 3rd fast in my life. I've done a 7-day one during a retreat that I was on. I've done a 5-day one just on my own out in the wilderness. And that was an 8-day one. And each time I've done them, I've always felt more aligned and in tune. Lost a lot of weight. I lost nearly 4.5 kilos in that session. Not that I was doing it for weight reduction. It was just a nice side benefit because I was carrying a few extra kgs. I'm still on my journey to trim down some more. But it's more about just aligning back into and your relationship to your body, your relationship to the food we eat, and then why we choose to eat the food we eat and the type of food we eat becomes crystal clear. And this is the thing that we're going to have to really consider when it comes to integrating our spiritual perception into our way of life, is our body and how we treat it. Because it's no good having advanced or awakened or, heightened spiritual perspective or a different awareness or an awakened mindset if you're then mistreating your sacred vessel, your body. Because your body is a representation of the earth that we live upon. And if we want to improve the way in which we live here on the earth, we have to first start treating our body as if it were sacred. Because once we do, we are much more, aware and connected and conscious of the way in which we treat the earth and by extension, one another and all creatures live here. So if, you're struggling, you've had a lot of awareness that come through in the last 2 or 3 years, you've had your awakening, you're doing all this, expansion and spiritual work and stuff, and you're sort of, you're finding like just out of whack, do a fast, come back, do a fast. You can do a 3-day fast, you can do a 1-day fast, you can do intermittent fasting. If you really want to hammer it, do a 7-day fast. And I'm living proof. I guarantee your body, your mind, your consciousness, your higher self, your soul, the earth is going to thank you for it. So on that note, I won't bore you anymore, and we'll dive into the chart. Interesting thing is that, like I said before, this is the Ingress chart for the Sun at 00 Cancer, 22nd of June, 2023. That's Thursday for us in Australia. That's tomorrow morning at 12:57 a.m. is the moment the Sun will move into Cancer. It's a busy chart. There's a lot going on. If I was to give this chart a name, I would call it Healing the Soul at a Deeper Level. Healing the soul at a deeper level, right? And what does that soul healing look like and feel like? And what does that soul alignment look like and feel like for you in your life going forward? And how is that going to integrate then into your lived experience and how you turn up in your life and where you turn up in your relationships and your relationship to others and things, to stuff, to food, to your work, to your children, to all those things, to one another? And how, with so much tension and pressure out there at the moment from so many different conflicting narratives and a particular trajectory that we seem to be on, I think the one thing that we can do is realize that if we want to, persevere through this, if we want to endure this, if we want to thrive beyond it, we've got to learn how to reconnect. And the awakening, the Great Awakening, we're in the Great Awakening, and we're in the transition of an age between Pisces and Aquarius. This might go on for a long time or it might not, depending on how we choose to turn up. And the greatest thing that we've been led to believe is that we have no power to affect the change, the greater change in the world. And the paradox is we have all of the power. We just haven't realized it. And in order for us collectively to realize it, you have to first individually realize it. And when you individually realize it, integrate it into your way of life, your beingness, your character, your self-image, your habits, your routine, your ritual, your work, your relationships, when you integrate it at every level, you ascension, there's a lot of talk in the New Age world about ascending. Where are we going to ascend? We're all going to ascend. We're ascending from the lower chakras into our heart. So when you ascend into the heart, the center, and you find that peace within, and then you integrate that state of being into your life in all the different areas, you are the change this world has been waiting for. And it's a ripple effect, and you have immense power. And we have that power. And the age of Aquarius is about man awakening back to that power. And we will affect the transition of consciousness rather than thinking that it's going to happen on an astrological alignment or a solar flare or whatever. It's like, no, it's going to happen in the hearts of the people of the earth. That's where the Great Awakening is. That's where the ascension takes place, is where we come back out of the fear, the lack, the greed, the control, the power, the disconnect, the imbalance, the polarization, right? The polarization, you think of our chakra system, our energetic system, we've got the 7 main key chakras, right? From our base 3 to our top 3, and in the middle, that's in the middle is the heart, not polarized. It's not on a pole. It's right in the center. And that's the way forward, is to live fearlessly and courageously in the heart. Now, Cancer is about our soul experience, our soul nourishment. How do we feed our soul? How do we nourish our soul? When a baby's born, it's so vulnerable. And traditionally, the job of the mother is to nurture that brand new soul that's earthbound. This earthbound soul is to nourish and nurture it and keep it close to its bosom and provide its every need to make it feel secure. So if you want a secret to, freedom, if you want a secret to this process of individuating, to find the community, or in other words, to individuate into your own unique star soul expression, but then to affect that change through others, you have to find a way to nurture and nourish your soul as if you were the mother of your baby, right? And the baby is your soul. And you're here to be that nurturer, that caregiver, that lover, that provider of its security. Now, if you externalize that need for soul nourishment into things, money, possessions, relationships, something you must have in order to feel nourished, you become dependent on that thing. And that's a real difficult aspect of the transition of Cancer, when we think of the polarity to Capricorn, is that where we get stuck and we can't move up into this sort of Capricorn area of the disciple or great ambition and goal achievement and to be the authority, is because we've stuck to being dependent on something, dependent on love, dependent on acceptance, dependent on approval, validation, depending on money, depending on whatever, dependent. So we have to become independent. And the way we become independent is we nourish ourselves, we nourish our soul. So with the sun making its ingress into Cancer, it's in conjunct Pluto retrograde in Capricorn, and Pluto's spending its last, 18 months going through the sign of Capricorn. It'll go back to 27 degrees retrograde, and by January next year, it'll be back into Aquarius early degrees. And then the middle of the next year, it'll dip back into Capricorn a little bit. And then by the end of 2024, it'll be into Aquarius for good. We'll have this transition of energy. But with Pluto back in Capricorn and in retrograde, a lot of the work, this, process of great transformation is in the area of self-discipline, where we turn into the self and we become disciplined and we refine our discipline of ourself. Discipline doesn't have to be difficult. Discipline means that you're consistent, you're committed, and you're willing to do what it is you're committed to in spite of how you feel. It means you can endure the hardship, you can endure the discomfort because you know that it's for your growth, right? You know that it's for your good. And the soul knows that on a deep level, but the ego wants to stay in the land of comfort. So as we move into this bending this year, this turning point, this inner work is something that's repeated quite often through this ingress chart. And the inner work is, it's refining and reshaping the self. And we do that through the process of self-discipline. Any disciple on their spiritual path of any form, whether you're a mystic, whether you're an occultist, whether you're a spiritualist, whether you're a religious fanatic, whatever it is, there is an aspect of discipline that one must engage with. So it's with the in conjunct, with the relationship between the sun and Pluto on this chart, means that theme is going to be perhaps challenging for some. And it might mean that the difficulties that you've got going on with the challenges in your life may be somehow directly linked to where you are not being disciplined. The challenge with the inconjunct aspect is that you might not put those two things together. There might be this reluctance or denial of, it's not me. I don't need to change. I don't need to do the work, right? And the challenge continues to maintain itself or, present the limitation for you. So if you're having a difficulty or a challenge, it's time to sort of put the two together and say, okay, if I was to become more disciplined here, if I was to sort of commit to something with consistency and endure beyond any discomfort and do what I needed to do, would I be able to look at this challenge from a different point of view? Would I be able to see it in a different light? Would I be able to have the know-how and withdrawal to overcome it? Now, if you're spiritually inclined and more self-aware, you can do that self-reflection. And the sun representing self and Pluto representing the deep inner self. And there's a lot of deep inner self-reflection. Now, Pluto is also nicely aligned to Vesta and Ceres in this grand trine here. And, we've got this this Mother Earth energy over here, the goddess of the harvest and of food, and how we sustain and nourish and nurture ourselves through sustenance. And then we've got Vesta, which is the passion and the fire. And there is this big grand trine between these alignments at the moment. We'll talk shortly about the Sun Square series. and what that's going to mean for the process of change and transformation. But with regards to the inner work that needs to be done, what it's going to allow you to do is it's going to allow you to ignite the fire within you, right? We're often externalizing, this need for inspiration, this need for some sort of, whether it's a recognition we're receiving or some sort of validation or some praise or approval or attention. We're often externalizing our fire into the source outside of self. Vesta is the fire within. It's that burning within. And when you stoke that burning fire within, that can that can move mountains. That can mean that you continue to go beyond where you thought you could. You run the, Camino Trail or whatever it is, or you climb the Everest, or you do these remarkable things, and it's because the fire within is driving you, not the recognition or something external. So this inner work is going to tune you in to your inner fire. And it's also this process of the inner work is a sign of nurture and nourishment. This is how you nourish your soul. Nourishment doesn't mean you're doing something to make yourself feel comfortable and good. Nourishment means you can be pushing yourself outside of your comfort to give your soul what it's wanting and needing to grow. Right? And that's a soul nourishment. The ego nourishment is, let me avoid escape, let me indulge, let me enjoy, right? The soul nourishment is, let me experience this because it's going to help me evolve. It's going to help me grow. So deep soul nourishment, when you have the willpower, discipline, determination to turn within and go, actually, you know what? The problems of the world aren't problems at all. They're just experiences that are happening. I perceive them as problems because I've got a problem. And I'm still not refined to the point where I've worked on myself. I know I need to do better. I know I can do better. So even though we've got this aspect to the sun in alignment to Pluto where we might be in denial of the need for work, or we might be seeing that our problems are, not ours at all. It's actually all connected, more deeper than that. So if we're willing and we have the courage, will, determination, strength, the stamina, the insight, we're able to turn within and say, what do I need to do? What do I need to work on? And Capricorn being the sign of work, hard work. What do I need to work on an inner level? And I'm going to commit to that. And that's going to help me stimulate my passion. And it is a form of nurture and nourishment. And if I can choose to see it like that, or I can choose not to. And the reality is, either way, you're right. So why not see it in a way that inspires you, that motivates you, that stimulates you, that drives you, that lights the passion within you? The square to the sun and Ceres, and I've already started to see this play out. In fact, the last, I think, 3 ingress charts for the equinox and the last solstice had Ceres square the sun. Now, here's the thing. When you start doing inner work, when you start to do self-transformation, your outer world is going to respond to the shift of your vibration and frequency, right? Now, let me break that down a little bit more simply. The world you've created for yourself at any point is driven by your past behavior, your past experiences, your past self-image, and how you express yourself. So all of your reality you experience, all your relationships, all of your scenarios, all of the environment you find yourself in is shaped by who you are, right? As you transform who you are, and that's the inner work, that's the work of self-transformation. As you do that work, that reality that you had created based on the old who you were has to Well, it will respond energetically to this shift of your frequency. Whether you've, gone devolved or evolved, you've changed your frequency. You're no longer being who you were. You're choosing to be someone different. You're growing beyond what you were. So your reality's got to respond energetically to that. Now, when your reality responds energetically to that, it can look like friction and tension, conflict. It can look like, what? I had an accident in my car on the way to work. It can look like, fuck, I just have no interest seeing that person anymore in my life because they drive me crazy. It can look like a promotion. It can look like a demotion. It can look like a redundancy. It can look like a loss of job. It can look like, holy cow, I'm in a crappy relationship and I'm just starting to have feelings about someone outside of that relationship, because your reality is responding to this shift of frequency. So the process of self-transformation has a lag process of integration into your life, because you can change all you want. But if you don't integrate that changes into your life, you're going to be living in a world where you are detached from it, or you're polarized from it and having difficulty being in it, because you've changed, but it's still the same. And it brings tension and friction and challenge and obstacles and all sorts of things. So with the series aspect here, series being, how do we nurture ourselves? How do we nourish ourselves? How do we, what sustenance do we give ourselves to make us sustain life and feel good? Some Mother Earth goddess, right? So in Libra, it's relationship orientated. So as you are going through inner changes, your relationships are going to change. And how do you continue to nourish your relationships in this new state of awareness? Some of those relationships will no longer vibrate at the frequency and able to sustain reality for you and be there. They will end. They will die. They will dissipate. They will dissolve. Some of those relationships will be stimulated by your shift of frequency, and that'll stimulate the other person, or whoever that is, to go through an evolution as well. And some of those relationships will just mean that you've left them behind. They're here, you're here. Now, everyone's different. And what your job when you're integrating the changes is you have to make peace with that was my reality based on who I was. This is who I'm showing up as now. I'm becoming more aligned, more attuned, more in alignment with my soul. So therefore, my reality needs to reflect that. And it is up to you to remain integral and morally grounded and based in your values as you go through that transition. It's hard work. Hello, Capricorn. It's hard work, but it's necessary. That's the final start part of the process of integrating, is the changes in your outer world. With Siri in Libra, the changes will be, because it's a square, there's going to be collectively a lot of tension in people's relationships because of the changes they're going on an inner level. And some relationships will end. Some relationships will break down. Some relationships will get to the point beyond their use by date. Some relationships will just, the realization of it's the wrong relationship. And you created the relationship based on your conditioning. And now you're breaking your conditioning, and that relationship no longer serves you or the other person. You have to love yourself through the process and recognize that the other person's allowed to respond however they choose from whatever level of awareness that they're at, and that you're to accept them where they're at. The worst thing you can do is make all the changes and then need some sort of validation for them by someone else. Well, I've done the work. Look at me. I'm better. No, it's not about that. It's about saying, yeah, I've changed. I'm not that person anymore. I don't believe that, or I don't think that, or I don't value that, or I don't, like that, whatever that may be. If you make the changes on an inner level and then you don't on the outer level, you'll get caught between two realities or two worlds, and that's hell to live in the gap between the two, because you've got all this new awareness, but you're living in a reality where you have to be the old person, and you can only sustain that for a period of time. If you live in that void, the soul will intervene and make you either very ill, or something, through a crisis will manifest for that to shift that and break it. If you know that's the case, it's going to happen. Trust your heart and do what's right and move forward. So that'll be a theme that may come up for some people. We'll deal with the Mars trine Chiron and sextile Mercury. Mars is at 18 degrees Leo. Chiron is at 19 degrees Aries. So fire to fire is a trine, right? So there's a real free flow of energy from Chiron to Mars. And then Mercury's smack in the middle of them, 18 degrees. So sextiling both of them. And this is a beautiful alignment to help really get some deep insight into where we've been hurt and how, and then how we have been expressing ourselves as based on that wound. And where we need to take action, Mars, to connect back to our heart and to express ourselves from love. And where we may have not, where we may have lost that connection and we haven't been doing Mars, we haven't been doing things from our heart. We've been disconnected from it. And therefore our Mars has been rampant and he's out there wild. And he probably needs to be tamed back in and brought back into the heart. So Mercury provides this beautiful sort of mediator between these two energies. And the mediator between Chiron and Mars is like, I've been hurt, I've been violated, I've been wounded. My rights didn't matter. I didn't get seen, or I didn't get heard, or I didn't get validated, or I didn't get recognition, or whatever it is at a deep level where you feel violated. And that's caused you to drift away from your heart. And now you're being in the world and doing in the world, and you're taking action and you're expressing yourself from this place that's not aligned. So Mercury enables you to sort of put those two and go, I can see how that, where I've been like that, has caused me to act like this. And the nice alignment between all those three at the moment is to actually work with the story you tell yourself about the hurt and make peace with, okay, well, I can forgive myself for the way I've been, or the hurt I've caused, or the challenges I've been through. And I can love myself through that. And I can tune myself so that my actions in this world come from my heart. And the words should come from the heart. Absolutely. If you're having trouble with the words coming from your heart, then your throat chakra will be blocked, or you'll get thyroid issues. The words aren't coming from the heart, or you can't find the way to get them from your heart into your mouth. But your actions speak louder than words. And when you do things, become aware of that question is, am I doing this from my heart, or am I doing it from my hurt? Am I doing this from my heart, or am I doing this from my hurt? And this turning point, this beautiful soul-filled, deep, transformative turning point, this quarter phase that we're moving into, of this year in particular, because the work we do now, let me tell you, it's going to stand you in good stead for the transformations that lay ahead for us all. Profound changes, big, profound changes. COVID, September 11, the prequel to the main show. Profound changes, huge shifts, massive. So the work you do now in this area is going to stand you solid in your, on the earth, in your body, connected to your heart. And when you are fierce, courageous, you're strong, you're liberated, you're free, you're sovereign. Right? So it's really important that we, on the journey of awakening, we get to that point where we start to really take these things seriously and start integrating into everything. And then just our whole life becomes it. We don't just keep it something that we do in the morning in our practice, and then we go to work and just be that old character. Or we do over here on weekends and retreats, and then we go back into the shitty relationships. right? We've got to actually take that and go, this is part of who I am. This is who I'm being. This is who I'm choosing to be. So Chiron, Mars energy, I mean, there's this beautiful alignment to help you take better care of yourself, to take the action you need to heal. What is it you need to do to heal? And it is an aspect of that is going to be the mind and the way you think about it and the story you're telling yourself and how you've been looking at things. But there's going to come a point too where you're going to have to put that into action and you have to do something about it. So this turning point is a beautiful opportunity to do those things also. The next alignment I want to talk about is the Jupiter and Saturn alignment. Saturn's retrograde in Pisces and turned retrograde just as the new moon in Gemini happened on Sunday just gone. And Saturn, this is our first retrograde of Saturn in Pisces. There'll be, I think, 3 over the next 2.5 years. And Saturn hasn't been there since 1993, I think it was. 30 years since where it is now. That's a long time between drinks. And Saturn's doing this final karmic work, right? On our landscape of our emotions and our feelings and our compassion, our forgiveness, our grace, our faith. These are all being tested because that's what Saturn does. And Saturn's testing your Pisces. And your Pisces is your surrender, letting go. And Saturn's testing your ability to do just that. And what are you letting go of? What you think that you're supposed to be or supposed to have or supposed to do? And just trust. You can only really let go to that extent when you're in your heart. Because when you're in your heart, you're aligned, you're at peace, you're free. It doesn't matter. You know what's best for you because the heart knows. It does what's right, even if it's hard. Saturn will allow this process of deep compassion and forgiveness and empathy and surrender and faith and divinity and transcendence if you have the courage to stand bravely in your heart and trust, deep, deep trust. Saturn retrograde, the retrogrades of Saturn tend to turn the work into the inner landscape. And Saturn ruling Capricorn and Pluto in Capricorn retrograde, Saturn in Pisces retrograde ruling over this Cap energy is another reinforcement of its inner work time, right? If you were in every aspect of your life in deep love and acceptance of, like just surrendered, like it's even the shit that you got to deal with, it's perfect. I'm okay with it. I can handle it. It's nothing. Then who are you and how do you reshape your identity, the way you see yourself? There's a lot of inner work. There's a lot of inner faith. There's a lot of inner trust. There's a lot of inner compassion. There's a lot of letting go that needs to happen. And Jupiter over here in Taurus, aligning sextile to that. Jupiter is the journey. Jupiter is let's go. Let's expand, right? This alignment from, conjunct the North Node in Taurus. And Taurus is earth. Come back to the simple things. The earth, come back to your earth. Your earth is your body. Come back into your body and journey in. And it's the journey that we take within that's going to reinforce or help us receive our abundance. And abundance is a state of being. It's not because you have something. It's not needing something. This sort of challenging energy of Taurus is to externalize something you have to have in order to feel abundant or secure. I have to have, I haven't got enough, I need more. And Jupiter, without this tempering of Saturn, is just that. I want more fixed earth. I want more money. I want more property. I want more land. I want more possessions. I want more material goods. I haven't got enough. once I have this, once I have that, if I had that, if I can have that, when I have that, once I get that. Have. You've got to turn within, connect to your body. Your body has everything you need: a beating heart, lungs, all the different organs, the structure, and encased in a beautiful skin with articulate senses that can sense things. You have everything you need in your body. You have everything you need in your body. If you can get to the place where you're butt naked in a desert, not a possession in the world, and you're free, you've done the work. Now, it's a metaphor for being that free that you don't need a thing to be in the state of abundance, to be in the state of receivership, to be in the state of love. It's not dependent on what you have, who you are, what you do. It's nothing. It's just acceptance. I'm in that state. Of course I am, because my heart's beating and I'm earthbound. So opportunity to take that inner journey, to journey within, do that work. What needs to change in your life if that were true? Now, the time for change will come. And right now, maybe it's, well, I need to sit with what is that needs to change. What, the real deep and meaningful self-reflective period of time. What needs to change? How do I change? How do I do this work? How do I improve? How do I overcome? How do I get better? How do I become aligned to my heart? How do I ascend? How do I do it? I need to go to Kundalini. I have to do ayahuasca. I've got to do meditation. I've got to do chanting. I've got to do transcendental meditation. I've got to do another course. No, you've got to let go and come into your heart. That's it. That's the work. Those things can be helpful. They can be beneficial, but that's not the work. They're there to help you on the journey towards the work, but the work is letting go and allowing the heart to lead you. The heart's the center. The heart is the earth. It's an anagram for earth, literally. Find your heart. But you may be challenged and stuck, and you've got work to do. We've all got the work to do. Trust me, I know. So that inner work now, there's another reinforcement of that story playing out for you. A couple more things, and then I'll round this up because it's getting long and it's getting late. The sun is aligning to the south node and sextiling the north node. I like the alignment to the south node because it is about letting go of the past, who you've been, what you've done, the mistakes you've made, the regrets you have, the hurt you've caused, the difficulty you've been through, the challenges you've overcome, the hardship, right? It's done. It's behind you. It's the past. Let it go. It's heavy. It's holding you back. The things you hold from the past that hold you down prevent you ascending. So if there's things that you need to do to let go. Now, letting go and forgiveness and all those things doesn't mean that you have to let those people that betrayed you or broke your trust or abused you back into your life. It just means you need to find the peace to let that go. Not for them, for you. The karmic consequences for other people's actions is not your responsibility. You have to have faith that at a higher order, that stuff is taken care of, and that's not your business. Your business is you. Your business is healing you. Your business is doing your work, forgiving yourself, forgiving those that trespassed upon you. Why? Because that's what frees you. So I like that alignment to the south node. Now, Venus, she's moved into shadow and she's retrograding from July this year until September, 23rd of July, September 4th. She'll be in Leo until October, right up until eclipse season. And Venus is love, and she's in the sign of the heart. And she's going to go down in the sky of the night light and come up in the morning and be the brightest star in the sky before the sun rises, known as Lucifer, the light bearer, the bringer of the dawn. Right. So this process of transmutation with our values, with our relationships, with our love, with our likes, with our attractive things is coming through now, this process of the heart. And this is a time where you reshape your self-image, how you see yourself, how you express yourself from the heart. If you don't see yourself from the heart, then you're critical, you're, pessimistic, you're negative, you're doubtful, you're insecure, you're fearful, you're all of the things that you have perceived yourself to be that are not freeing. You're not in alignment to your heart. So your self-image has been crafted and shaped, most likely because of your experiences and the way you've responded to and what's happened from the conditioning of your past. And now the transmutation time is to go, okay, I have to do the work to reshape the way I see myself in the image of love. And then once I do that half of the work, and then Venus comes out the other side and starts to rise as the morning star, then I have to work on the way in which I express myself, because I'm expressing from my heart. How do I express myself to the world? How do I show up? How do I dress? If I do that, if I'm doing it from the heart, or if I'm doing it needing to be seen, needing the attention. The negative aspect of Leo is I need attention. I want to be seen. But that would be like the sun in the sky shining all day, and then at the end of the day saying, well, hello, I've just made it warm for you. I gave you life. Why aren't you looking at me? Hello. So the sun doesn't do that. It just shines because it's being. That's who it is. It is the heart, formation of it. So the other end of that scale is the sun doesn't go, oh my God, is it too hot? Sorry, everyone. Oh God, I didn't mean to. Oh, sorry, it's too hot. Is it too hot? I'll try and turn it down a bit. That's the insecure. The sun doesn't do that either. The sun shines their light. And you're going to find your light. And your light isn't up in here, it's in here. This is where the spark is. So this is a beautiful time to do the transmutation of your self-image and the way you express yourself. And you're coming out of the dysfunction or the imbalance or the polarities, and you're doing the work and the forgiveness, and you're doing the inner work, and you're taking the journey, you're doing all those things, and your Venus, she's being purified, and you come out the other side of this transmutation of her energy, and you start to stand fearlessly, inflamed of your heart, and you open that chest and it's just on fire, and you're a beacon of light for everyone in your life and all of those around you, and they are just blown away by the changes that they've seen in you, and you are just fiercely in your heart. This is the opportunity that provides. So that's my video for this week. Well, I say month. It's been a while since I've had a video up here. I appreciate your patience, and those followers that have just recently joined, and as well as the long-term followers. I appreciate your attention and patience, persistence, your support. So on that note, if you would like to get in touch for a personal astrology reading, for guidance, support, clarity along your journey, if you've got a difficulty in your life and you need support or guidance to transition through that, or ways to which you can overcome it, then astrology reading is for you. I do energy healing here in person on the Gold Coast, remotely for everyone around the world, and I also do past life regressions at the moment here in person on the Gold Coast. So if you'd like any of those sessions, or even just some advice or to chat, if you have any questions, comments, or concerns, please either get in touch through the comment section or send me a direct message, or you can jump onto my website, find out more, and contact me via email. We are at a pinnacle point on this process. We have immense power to make some changes in this world. We have more power than we have been led to believe, but we must invoke that power. We must realize it. And the way in which we do that is we individuate and do our work. And now is the time. On that note, peace out.